G'day, Bomber fans. How about that one? I did say that it would be very much on brand for Essendon to beat the Dockers and then go and get done by the Suns at home. And honestly, looking back at our performances in the last decade or two, if you told me to pick one game that that exemplifies the culture or even like the nature of this club, I'd have to point my finger at this loss. This was the most Essendon loss you'll ever see. What an embarrassing season it's turned out to be. If you said before the year that we'd be in a finals race, I would have taken it, but this has just turned sour very fast. Gold Coast won their first away game of the year against us after the siren. Neutrals would have loved it, but Essendon fans around the world would have just aged an extra decade watching that miserable game in the end. Leave your votes down below if you have any. Let's just get into it. Alrighty, the first quarter, the tone was set pretty early. I said for us to win comfortably, we'd need a fast start, seeing as they are a very poor starting team. They beat us in the first term, so you just knew we were going to be in for a long day, and a long day we got. But it started early. The Suns looked hungry. They held a 1 point lead at quarter time. 1 point lead, something that we'd know too much about later in the game. The second quarter was probably it was our best. It wasn't our most dominant, but we actually scored. Draper and Caddy were having fun. Caldwell kicked a ripper. The crowd was up and about. We reversed the deficit and then some. We went into halftime feeling pretty confident with a handy 2-goal lead. The third was actually really impressive on Gold Coast's part. We had some momentum at times, but they did really well to sap the energy out of it and make the game a bit of a boring one. They held on to their lead when they had it and made the clock an enemy for us. That term, as boring as it was, really set up for a close finish, and you got to give Gold Coast credit for that. And the fourth, I mean, as soon as Draper took that mark on an easy angle in the first minute or two and missed, I just knew what was going to happen. We completely dominated that quarter. We were playing with our own footy. It was a training drill. It was Adelaide all over again. 10 scoring shots to 2, but we still lost the game. 1 goal, 9 behinds. That is crazy. Gold Coast kicked 2 straight. That's mental. That is just nuts to me. Easy shots too from leaders of the club. Stringer missed 3, Draper missed 2, Merritt Durham. These were more than gettable opportunities. We threw that game away. Gold Coast didn't beat us. We beat ourselves. I won't even give credit to Gold Coast because I don't even think they were that good. That's the embarrassing thing about this game. The Suns were genuinely pretty average and still beat us. So let's talk about this game. What went wrong? Well, for starters, the old noggin was back at it again, playing tricks on us. It's funny how good we play when we actually have reasons to play well, external heat and whatnot. We went from beating a team that was in the top 4, playing finals like footy, and then dishing that up. And this has been happening all year. We left ourselves no room to maneuver when we play like this. Every game is close. Every game is hard. We are unable to put the foot on the throat and be a ruthless team. When I and others talked about percentage earlier in the year, when we were in the top 4, we were laughed off because we were getting wins. But it's always been a good gauge of where a club truly sits. And right now, it's where we sit. We're a team struggling outside the 8 to get in. And at our best footy is good. We play good footy at our best, but we far too often make things hard for ourselves. We get on little momentum runs and then sit back in our seats. Something that's baffled me is why we can come back from deficits but never create them ourselves. When things get easy for us, we just cruise, I guess, and allow other teams to sniff out an upset. That happened here. We never really looked that hungry, even when we looked tough. When we were tough, it was because guys like Rowell were forcing us to be. We were yet again reactive, which is disappointing after what we showed last week. This game was lost above the shoulders, and as disappointing as that last quarter was, we shouldn't blame it solely on the loss, because that just takes away from the fact that we're unable to create sustainable leads. This wasn't just lost because of inaccuracy, it was lost because of our inability to be that ruthless team. And the sad thing is, Gold Coast are just about the most mentally fragile team in the comp, and they overran us. They were mentally stronger than Essendon. What does that say about us? I don't even think it's all doom and gloom. We're 9th. We have important figures a year or two away from their prime. I think there is potential for a bump in ladder positions in coming years. We're cashed up, but we need to fix these mental problems that have plagued us for so long. We're just not a great footy team. We could be, but above the shoulders, we're just so weak. Alright, speaking of weakness, let's talk about that last quarter. We kicked 1 goal, 9 behinds. We had the ball in our forward half for, I think it was 86% of the term. 19 inside 50s to 8. Structurally incredible. Our backline was fantastic in that last quarter. Mackay was on fire. Andy McGrath was inspirational. Our forward line was connecting with our midfield. We weren't just getting the ball in forward 50, we were genuinely getting goal-scoring opportunities from it. 10 scoring shots from 19 entries. That's a good return. It wasn't about connection. It wasn't about defense. That last quarter was simply, well, it came down to conversion in the end. The game didn't, as I just said, but that last quarter, there was nothing but conversion issues. I don't have an issue with how we defended the last 2 minutes. That mark was special. The kick was special. I thought we were very unlucky to be in that situation, not because of the Gresham free kick. I thought that was a free kick, 2 hands in the back. Caddy got a goal from one similar early in the game, but I think the fact that we thought it was a goal and were running back to our positions, had to scramble back, I think that was the reason why the ball got down the other end in the end, and I know some have blamed the loss on that moment, or on the umps, which is silly. We had some great calls go our way, goals from them. I think we dominated the free kick line as well, but that last quarter, and really when you think about it, the result came down to not being able to handle the pressure. And on the flip side, a young kid who was getting booed by the crowd all night and comes out and nails a set shot after the siren, that's handling pressure. Credit to him. I don't like Mac Andrew. Jumper punching Archie Roberts isn't going to get you many Essendon fans, but he handled the moment better than anyone else in the team, in Essendon's team. Maybe bar Roberts himself. The only player to actually kick a goal in that quarter was Archie, and it was arguably the toughest shot we had for the term. I really wonder how many of the guys that played on Saturday are in Brad Scott's future vision, whatever he sees us, our next premiership team being. And also, there are just so many guys who I can't really see a clear ceiling for, which you could view as a good thing. You could look at that and think that these guys could be anything. But Nick Cox, where does he play his best footy, and why has he been given so many chances this year? I get that he's played some good footy at times, but before his concussion on Saturday, he was genuinely a liability on the field, and that was the case the week before as well. I don't often bag players, you guys would know that. But Cox in defence against good forwards rarely works. Jai Menzies, I thought he was okay for the most part, but okay isn't really good enough to be getting the game time that he is getting when you have so many consistent performers in the VFL. And I know you guys will bring up Kelly and Laverty. I thought they were both okay at times, but what is their future with the club? Can you really see them being in a premiership winning team? Jade Gresham, 5 disposals after a good game last week. Is that trade looking like a flop now? And will we now have to just deal with the fact that we have an inconsistent forward on our list that we have to use? I love the pressure that he and Davey applies, but there isn't really much more to the game, especially for Davey, that we can actually see yet. And I don't want to bag Menzies because he was far away from the issue on Saturday night, but it says a lot about the club that we signed him on for an extension mid-year. I genuinely thought he'd be feeling some pressure come exit meeting. That's the culture of a team content to be where they are. I've liked the axing of Goldie and Heppel, but that's only really possible because they're older and easier to navigate when it comes to list management strategies. But why are we quick to sign up Menzies? Explain that to me. I really don't understand what that says about the club, that Jai Menzies is a priority signing over other guys. There are just too many passengers in this team right now, and Menzies is one of them. And we've only used about 34 or 35 players this year. I want to see us blood some debutants in the last 2 rounds, because right now there is no reason to be hopeful for these remaining weeks. I'm optimistic about the future. I think we have a good foundation building. I know many will disagree, but there is talent. I just want to see hard VFL work rewarded so we can actually be shown some of that talent. I've been thinking a lot about our leadership lately. I like that this is just turning into a discussion about the club and not the game, but our leadership, we have a captain and a vice captain. We haven't had a formal leadership group under Brad Scott. Is that because it is trivial leadership groups, or is that because we lack actual leadership? It's interesting. If we had a leadership group, who would be on it? Ridley is seen as a respected figure. Langford, from all accounts, is a great mentor. But after that, you're clutching at straws. And even those two, would they be in the top 6 or 7 leaders at a club like Geelong? How many of our players, aside from merit, would actually be considered for a leadership group role or spot at another club, or another top 8 club, let's say? Let's rule out the bottom teams who are younger. But would Andy McGrath really be a vice captain at any other team? I thought he was. I'm not bagging his performance, and I thought that was an inspirational chase down. I like him as a vice, as a leader, but I don't really think he'd be a vice captain in another team. I think we're seriously lacking in leadership, and it shows. We have great players, we have mature players, but none are really leaders of the club. McGrath was a vice captain at 22 or 23 or something ridiculous. Heppel is a leader, but he isn't playing. He's close to retirement. And this has been an issue since the drug scandal, really. We had Joe Danaher as our vice captain one year, I think. Not long before that, we had Fantasia, and they both left only about a year after they were on the leadership group. We've always made baffling leadership calls that fans have criticised, and I think that criticism for me now is turning into clarity, because it's not the fact that the calls were weird, it's the fact that we don't really have any leaders at the team to rely on. Do we have to trade guys in for that? More Goldstein-like trades to help younger players learn about standards? Or do we need coaches to be teaching these things? I don't know, but I'd like to see it fixed somehow. Look, in a weird, perverted way, when we were about 1-6 in that last quarter, I think it was after one of Stringer's misses, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but I remember genuinely thinking to myself and actually telling other people at the time that I was hoping we lost that game. I didn't want to win a game like that. We were horrible, and I was thinking about how fake a win would have been. Let's say if Gresham got that goal in the end, the boys would have been pumped, the fans would have been relieved, we would have thought we were bad, but at least we got the win. I'm glad we lost this game. I want the boys to be seething thinking about this next year or the year after. This is the type of game that fuels you a bit. I know it technically ends our season, but if we won this game, I wouldn't have wanted to play finals anyway. That was the most unfinals-like performance. If we won that game, it would have just papered over the cracks. The disappointing thing is, I'm not even that mad. I'm kind of used to it at this stage. I'm disappointed. I'm a disappointed parent, but I'm not mad. I know people will call for certain players to be axed or blame the umps or blame Scott. People always look for quick fixes or quick scapegoats, I guess, reasons for a loss. As a fan, you never want to say that your club is average and has issues. And as I said, I really do think we have talent to be up there on the list. We've shown that. But there are serious issues at this club right now that need to be fixed next year. Not fitness like we thought last year. That Arizona trip made us fitter, but we are still weak like we were last season, and we have been for ages. That was a loss I think we needed. That loss is more valuable than scraping past for a win, in my opinion, because I think people now are starting to realise just how weak of a club we are. A narrow win wouldn't have done that. We can seriously try and fix things now because we are nowhere near where we thought we would be a couple of months ago. It was a horrible loss, but a needed loss, I think. I've been pretty critical, so are there any silver linings? There are maybe one or two. I will mention them just because I don't want to be, Debbie Downer over here. I thought Nate Caddy was great. Robert still looks really good. I'm excited for the future still when you have guys like that. When you have Caddy in the team, in the forward line, young players around him, there is still reason to be excited. We have a few guys still not really in their physical prime yet, like Durham and Caldwell. They're just 23. That midfield is going to improve a lot when they get older. Nick Bryan, I thought he was okay. He got bullied a bit by a much better ruckman, but it wasn't really a big part of the game. You never really thought Jared Witts is going to decide the game. I think we've seen enough from Bryan to suggest he could be a ruckman next year with another preseason. But no, I guess I'm just trying to stay optimistic because we've seen how fast things can change. No one would have thought Richmond would win a flag a few years before they did, and I think the promising thing is that we know what we need to fix. We aren't at a loss. We need leadership, we need toughness, we need very specific on-field improvements to certain areas of the ground. Hopefully we get some of those things, but let's talk about the future more in a later video. Let's just get onto the votes for now. Alrighty, votes. 1 to Mason Redman, who was a bit leaky early, but really rose to the occasion late. 6 intercept marks, 27 kicks at almost 90% by foot. 2 votes to Zach Merritt, who really deserves to be at a better team. You gotta feel bad for the bloke. And 3 votes to Nick Martin, who was absolutely everywhere. This guy got 36 disposals, ran more than anyone on the field, over 16 kilometers, and he didn't come off for a rest. He played 100% game time, running 16 kilometers. He genuinely gave everything he could out there. And to please a lot of you, he played quite a bit on the wing. Hopefully he's more there next year. The role player was Ben Mackay. I thought he was really sloppy early in the game, so I didn't want to give him any major votes, but the way he closed out that second half, we'd be talking about it a lot more if we won the game. He had 15 interceptions, 6 intercept marks, controlled the back half, used the ball well, but yeah, he was just a bit too timid early for me to give him any actual votes. Leave yours down in the comments below if you can be stuffed. Alright, that's that. Bad loss, bad year in the end, disappointing year. We still got to close it out with some fight. We want to avoid a complete disaster like 2023, so let's see what happens. Let's see what the boys have to prove. For now though, just cheers for watching. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and go Bombers.